Hello everyone, we'll be starting shortly. A few familiar faces, good to see you all. For those of you expecting James's smiley face, you're all stuck with me again tonight, so thank you very much for coming along. Should be an interesting, quick little session going through the app from a finisher perspective. So any questions or anything you want me to cover tonight, please do put it in the chat or the Q&A. And we'll try and address it as we go through, or we can wait to the end and answer a few questions as well. Hope everyone's doing well. I've got the window open here, so it's positively warm down on the south coast at the moment. I'm sure it's not the same around the country. However, I see I do still get James's profile picture. So anyway, welcome to everyone. Just while we're waiting, remember there is, and I'll probably say it again in a second, but there is a, we do a short raffle for a weighing pack at the end. So do hang around to the end and we'll do that as we finish up with a tablet holder and a beanie and some touchscreen gloves for weighing. So if you're around at the end, please stick around and I'll make sure I quickly give that away and we'll get it sent out to you in the next while. Good to see some familiar faces. Good to see you all. And thanks for joining us a second time in the week for a lot of you. So really appreciate it. So hopefully you'll get something out of it. Given it's not James but me tonight, but do make sure you grill me with questions as and when you need to. We'll try and start in a couple of minutes. That's all right. Very good. Well, it should be about 35 to 40 minutes, hopefully, as we go through this. So, and yeah, please, please do ask questions as we go through. I'll try and catch them as we go through and go back to anything you want to address. We should be able, and if not, we actually do have these on the website and recorded. So if you do miss things tonight or want to come back and have a look later on, then please do go to the website and it's got all of the previous webinars up there for you to go and watch them if you want to watch them. We've got some interesting ones from calf rearing through to sucklers, and we've got another rearing session next week actually, and talking about early disease detection in calves for calf rearers. So very good. Well, thank you all very much. We may as well get started. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Ian Wheal. I'm the founder of Breedr. And tonight I've had to put my glasses on to look smarter than James. So I've taken over the webinars from him and we'll be running through all about finishing and how we help finishers build their own coordinated supply chains, how they look at building out their own supply chains and building certainty into production. We'll be going through the app, talking about some of the basic things within the app that you can do as a finisher. And then lastly, we'll be talking a bit about some of the reports that you can use to try and optimize your farm year over year and try and improve both right from the source of where you're getting animals through to how you're selling them and looking at hitting the carcass weights as we get out the back. So with that in mind, I'll just quickly start to get this all shared up. There we go. RTO. Share my screen. Not as slick. There we go. Hopefully everyone's starting to see my desktop coming up now. So we're going to start from a flow of coming through. So I think, there we go, share. Please let me know if you can't see my screen and things aren't coming through. So drag that across. So really what we're going to start on is how we actually, with Breedr, you can start to look at your supply chain and sourcing cards right through to how you get animals onto your farm, whether they're sourced through Breedr or sourced through other people. So we have the main Breedr app, and for those of you that joined us on Wednesday, obviously from a finishing perspective, you may already be working directly with calf rearers, you may already be buying from market or buying through stores. There's a number of things that you can do. So when you are buying stores, and they come onto your farm, we have built into the system the ability to be able to scan a passport, and with that, pick up as they come on their farm, either as you bought them at the market and picked up the passports, or literally as they come off the truck. That will pull all of the information into here. You can, with this, at this stage, already put them into a group if you want to. However, I'm going to show you a slightly different way to do that a lot of finishers are now using as they're sorting these cattle as they come in. And you can also put them into a location. This is important if you've got a couple of different holdings, because you can shove those animals into the location that they need to be in that will relate to the holding they're moving on to. So different fields, if you've got multiple holdings, can be set up to have different holding numbers. So that's when you then move that animal onto farm and save and continue. I won't do that because I've already set this animal up. That will automatically have your BCMS turned on, and it will do the submission. It won't do the full submission, but it'll put it into your web app, which you can now see here. So it'll put it into your web app. It'll have things ready to approve. And what you'll do is when you click on that yellow button, you'll see a list of animals down here, and there'll be an approve button that lets you do that approval. So even if you've got a member of staff who's doing that scanning on and needs them to be scanned on so they can weigh them, none of that gets sent to BCMS without someone in the office being able to come in, have a look at your BCMS, check all of the dates and movements are right, and then sending that in. So that's very important, especially on a bigger farm, and making sure that it's the admin that can come in and have a look at doing those movements. Some of you may have already come in and connected your BCMS already. If you have set the BCMS and farm settings, then you're able to come in here and there's a green checkbox down the bottom that lets you turn on those registrations. As soon as you do that, this tab over here will turn on, and you'll be able to move all of your animals directly from Breedr and do all your BCMS movements through Breedr. Of course, you don't have to do that. You can just have it so it will pull animals down. You will notice at that stage, though, that the animals don't move off. You need to make a decision whether you're going to move them off yourself and do that a bit more manually at that point. So that's sort of moving on. Some of the other things that you then will want to do with your livestock as they come on is, just switch back to the screen and I've lost it, is that you'll be able to come into this and you can start adding or logging activities against the animals. So one of the things that you can do in here is do a castration. So when you actually go in and do treatments, sorry, shearing castration, there it is. You can log a castration. This is important if you've got, obviously not a heifer, but if you've got bulls, because this will automatically then set all of the gender in the app to steers. So if you want to register how many steers you have in the app versus how many heifers and versus bulls, that's an important step to be able to make that go through. You can obviously do that on the app as well. And that's an important part, but we have added in very recently that you can come and log different activities within the app. So you can come into here, you can click and you can log activities through the web app as to either individual animals or to all the selected animals they go through. So previously that was only available on the phone, but if you are someone who has notes of paper and you want to get back to the office and stick it down, that is also possible. Let's go back to the app now. Right. Got the mirroring working. Oh, I have to start that again, apologies. So then when we get on to being able to with your animals as they move on, there's a few other things that you might want to do. So you might want to be able to set them up into groups or fields. Hopefully you've managed to find time to set up the different pens or fields that you already have on your farm. So that will enable you to be able to come in. If not, you can come in here and create different fields. I'm in James's farm at the moment, so I won't do it with here, but I'll switch across and you can do that. Here, it's important to remember the holding location that you're going to be getting again, especially if you've got two locations. You can set it up as a yard or a pen. Still a bit of Australian in me coming through, calling it a yard. And that enables you to be able to have that set up within your system. And then the other thing is you might want to start thinking about setting up groups. So you can see James has got his set up as groups here to be able to measure all of the performance that's happening within those. And he's using that so that they're all in batches. And what we often quite see with finishers is they prefer much more to batch it up. So it might be all of the animals that came in as stores on a certain month, it might be from a source, it might be a batch of calves that they've been tracking the whole way through. And so those are the sort of thinking that you will do. What I'll now show you is when you come into that app, the next step will usually then be to come in and weigh them. And so a lot of people at that point will go and set up a crush session. And if you've done a weigh session before, this will be no new use to you. However, the first step here is you go to your home screen. We'll come back to all those alerts at the top. And there's a couple of ways of doing this. You can just do a quick weigh, and that'll take you straight into weighing immediately. But usually when you're in a finishing unit, I like to do it a bit more technically. So I've already got an induction set up here, but I'm going to delete that and I'll do a new one from scratch. So I can come in and go manage crush sessions. I can set up a new template. Just edit them all. So set up a session. I can call this one induction. And then you can choose to do a few things as you go through induction. If you're adding a visual tag, so quite often you might have red 1, 2, 3, 4, you can set that up to update as it goes through. We're not going to do on this one. The other thing you can do is you can set up to add drafts. So if you know that you're going to draft these to a specific group, you can then choose that group that you would want to set them up into. So that could be 2018 calves in this case. You could also set it up as an auto condition. So if you want everything to be drafted into a new group, one of the things you can actually do here is do everything above 0 weight. It will automatically get drafted into that group. You can actually at the same time draft into a location. So here I've got broken tank paddock set up, which is a farm, one of the paddocks from when I was growing up on the farm. And again, similar, you can set up a draft, everything above 0 kilograms. So then when you launch the session, you've automatically got it set up. You can see the drafting down the bottom. A few things you might want to do here then is connect. So you can see I've got the weigh unit here. I've got an S3, very good, works with an iPhone and iPad. So this is an S3 for everyone who hasn't seen one, but we do connect with XR5000s, EasyWeigh 7i. There's a number of different systems that we have. And then I've also got an SRS stick reader here as well. So, and the SRS stick readers are slightly different in that you do have to, with those ones, come and connect that within here. And then that will connect in with the stick reader. There we go. Ignore that, I don't need the data linker. And then I can come in here and connect that up. So now I'm in, ready to scan. There we go. That one you can see I've already put in. And then once I put a weight, which is, I'm sitting on it, so I'll just get that to come through and stabilize. You can see it's pulled the weight through. It's automatically drafted it into those 2 units. However, if you decided that that one wasn't one you wanted to put in that group, you can manually untap to go through. You can also see in the top right-hand corner here a flag, which tells me that there is an alert on this animal that's been past due. And you can have a look at what that alert was. You can mark that as done. save and update, and then close that. And now you can see there's no alerts that are in there at all. So that again just helps you keep track of any tasks or jobs that you might have to do. If you want a reminder, then come and have a look at this one from, say, apply a treatment in a few days' time. You can come and put that in, and then that alert will flow through on the animal for you to go and follow up on that as you go through. One of the other things, if you're just putting EIDs in the ears, which a lot of people are doing, the EID scan automatically goes to the next animal, but here you can see that you're automatically then able to search and match that animal. So I think 1, 2, 3, there was one. There we go. So I could match that. Now that's matched up. When I save this session, that will automatically match that EID up. So forever and a day, that EID is then now matched up with that animal. So that's your sort of induction template that you've got on there. I'm not going to save that. You can now see that when I go to my sessions, I've got induction, and we'll come back to drawing in a second, but I've got induction in there. So next time I want to do a weigh session, I go induction, launch session, off I go, and it's all ready to go. So that's the main ones on sort of doing that. I think it's important. The reason we encourage people to create groups that relate to those batches of animals that they're buying is they become sort of a profit center for those animals. So you get to see whether those groups all performed, whether they didn't perform. Groups can go into multiple pens. So even if you draft them off later, you've sort of got the record of those animals that all came in together. One of the other things you might want to do when you're in and you're inducting animals, you might want to give them a dose of medication. I've got some Alomycin here, but for those of you who have used the app, you obviously know that you can then scan the barcode. It will automatically detect the Alomycin. It picks out the batch number. It obviously hasn't read it very well. It usually will pick out the expiry for that one as well. And then that enables, and then you do have to put in the name of the supplier. So for West Point down our way gets that one. And then you can add that to the cabinet. So that will then be in the cabinet, ready to dose animals as they come through. And we're actually working on some features in the next month that lets you have favorite activities. So I think a few of you who use this all the time will know that sometimes there's a few too many clicks to get in and dose a medicine. You can add another medicine directly from there as well and keep going through on that. So just done there, cancel and move out. So you then have a history of all of those doses and batches that you've got, that you've added. You can see when they've been remained expired. And this is obviously very important from a farm assurance perspective. I've just got a couple of questions. So Michael, with the XR5000, you are correct. That one unfortunately can't connect to the iPhone. It's due to the, as much as it looks like new technology, unfortunately the Bluetooth mode for it that TrueTest or Datamar now put into it still only works with Android. There's a number that do work. So if you do want iPhone, we recommend the S3. It's under 400 quid and go through it. Neil, in terms of adding new groups as you go during the weigh session, unfortunately not at this stage, but you can pause the weigh session, jump out, add that group, and then go back in. And then you can add a draft. So what I will show you is when you're in that crush session, so I'll just go back to the active one that we had before, continue. So you can see I'm now back into that session that I was in. If you want to, you can go in and edit your draft session. So if you actually wanted to come in and add another draft while you're in the mid session and you've popped out and you've added a group, you can come in and then add another draft as you go through, which may be a new group that you want to add in to big calves and apply. And you've now got an additional draft that sits there within there. So you can do it during a session, but it's not as simple as just clicking add group while you're in that session. You just jump out, come back in, and the group's added. But when you're in the session, you can then update your draft settings there, and it'll let you come through and add that group in. Hopefully that answers your question. So the next bit was to sort of take you through on the medication. When you get to the end of a session, and I'm just going to pause again and return to that session later. When you get to the end of the session, you may have saved that session that you've done. You've got all of your different sessions. I can see my wife's been logging a few of the sessions on this one. One thing you can do is you can come in and obviously do a number of things with those animals at the end. But One of those is you can come and select them all. If you're dosing them all exactly the same medicine, I would recommend that you get to the end, post the saving of that session, and you can administer for all of those animals exactly the same dosage. So in this case, we've just put the Alleamycin in the cupboard. I can select the batch that's, I've got some left, 5 mils. That then enables me, and then we've got some reasons and everything in here. So to enable to do, let's just go with that one. Add any notes. The withdrawal should automatically pull through, but we do recommend that you check that. So we actually have a record of all of the withdrawals for all of these medicines. Sometimes the drug companies don't keep it up to date, so it is worth just double checking, but usually it's right. So that you can then log that against the animals, and all of those medicines are logged, and it will be visible in your data set. Excuse me. So I think once you've done all that and you've got all of your animals into your groups, I think the important thing is there's a few things that, from a finishing perspective, that you really want to start looking at. And some of those are looking at your farm performance. One of the other things that we have built into the app, which is really useful, and a number of our finishers use it already, is the ability to start looking at farm forecasts. So if you go to the web, which is at uk.breedr.co, and then just log in with the same username and password that you have for your app, you're able to come in here, and one of these reports is farm forecast. So this farm forecast report will enable you to come in and look on your farm, and we have predictive growth algorithms. So once you start adding weights around your animals, we start to build prediction algorithms and growth curves for them. So you can come in here and say, well, look, I'm looking for how many animals are going to be 600 kilograms. This will then automatically go in, it'll pull the profile of animals you have on your farm, and you can start to see when you've got steers or heifers coming through, ready to be hitting that target weight. And so you can start to communicate with your buyer how many animals are going to be hitting target at certain times. And then here, obviously, if you want to, you can come and download that list if you want to have it offline or you want to print it or so on. And you can see what the last weight was, and you can see what the predicted current weight is of our algorithm. So we usually recommend to weigh every 6 weeks or so, and the prediction's pretty accurate as you're coming up finishing cattle up to 6 weeks. Outside, it's reasonably accurate. I think if you get over 6 months without weighing, it's a bit more hit and miss, but we are working on making it more and more accurate all the time. Some of the other things that you might want to look at, and really from I'll show you how you can start sourcing animals in a second through the app, but one of the other areas is you can start to look at which farms you've been purchasing from. So I'll just switch back to James's farm here. So within James's farm, we can start to look at performance by purchase farm. So you can see which farms you've been buying your stores off, buying your calves off. You can see how many have been going. But more importantly, you can start to see which animals from which farms are really driving growth rates on your farm. And this here is, so average of 0.57 from that farm, 0.96 from this farm. So when you equate that to half a kilo a day of daily live weight gain, we're talking about months and significant amount of return on investment of what those averages are and improved profitability. So if you can then go and work with those farms and continue to source from those farms, then that's very, very useful. The other thing you are able to look at is if you're building your own integrated chain, so you're actually working with calf rearers and where they're sourcing from dairy farms, you can start to look at the sires that are coming through on the passports. You can have a look at which sires are actually driving better growth rates while they're on your farm. And that again gives you an indication of the sort of animals you should be buying. And then finally, if you want to go down all the route, and Breedr can help you with setting up the network and help you with getting calf rearers on, you are actually able to do with look at the birth farm. So this is about which different dairy farms you may have gone and bought crossbreds, or which suckler farms you bought from, and from there, there's a good tide of genetics. So so Neil, another question. yes, you can only, the group has to be created in the app, and for that, the creation of the group, you do actually have to have network connectivity, but you can, so I'll pop back to it. If you want to do just a basic move of animals to a group that's not in the draft sessions, which I think is what you're asking, but do correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So let's go back to here. Go to an active session and continue. When you are in here, well, we've got log activity in here, so you can log all of your treatments and everything else that goes within it. You can add previous keeper if you're moving them on directly within the app. But in terms of being able to scan them to like move them to a group within this crush session, you do need to have that group set up. So if you are moving across the different groups. So there is an easy way to add birth weights. Again, when we come back, which is another question here, when we got back to the summary, oh, sorry, apologies, you can't actually see the screen share, which would help. There we go. So, okay, I think we've got that all working now. Yeah, so when you're back in the crush session, I'll go back to that active session. So within the crush session, when I'm continuing that, you can log quite a lot of things while you're in the session. But if you want to do the movement, you need to set it up as a draft as you're going through, and it will do the count as you go along. In terms of easily adding a birth weight to it, there is a way of adding a birth weight against the date of birth. However, I think for us at this stage, it's about, you have to do it through an import. So you have to import, come to our custom import. With your custom import, you can import an activity. You'd upload a lot of passport numbers with a date of birth, with a birth weight. That would automatically do a bulk apply to all of the animals of that birth weight. So otherwise, you can do a, which is probably the fastest and easiest way for you to do it against their date of birth when you want to have exact birth weights. If you're doing it as a dairy farmer, then hopefully, or someone who's a suckler farmer, we encourage you to obviously log that as you go along. So just a quick one from an anonymous person, but yeah, can you split a medicine in the group when in crush mode, for example, use 5 doses for IBR for 8 cows? What we have to do there is, if you are doing that, and you've got a number of doses that are in the bottle, at this stage, we do it by dose. And so, yeah, what people have done, and we have had the situation where there's an extra dose or 2 in the bottle because they always oversupply. And then you actually just scan the bottle and add those extra doses back in because they've been able to still use the same batch. So that's the way that people have handled it. It's usually the doses come straight out of the pack when you scan the bottle. So that all comes through automatically, and we try and make that as easy as possible. I think one of the other things from a finisher perspective is obviously you're wanting to start analyzing your carcass weights. So within your reports, there's a carcass history report. Within this carcass history report, we can upload kill sheets or carcass reports that come back from your processor. Most processors will have a portal that you can download the CSV. When you download that CSV, again, through the same upload, you're able to come in and upload those. So you can custom import, upload an activity, and this will let you choose that, apply that file, and then you upload that as a carcass report. When you've got that within the, switch farms again. So when you've got that as the carcass history, one of the things you can then do is you can start to say, well, what was in spec for me? So for example, we might say that only 344L is in spec. Then, there we go. And you can apply that. So you can now see where your out of spec animals have been. However, if you're someone that says that 4-H's are actually out of spec as well, you can start to see that you've got a lot more animals starting to come out of spec as you go through. So it starts to let you do some analysis in terms of what's in spec and out spec. That also lets you, in the performance report, it lets you come in and start to analyze which calf rearers or which source farms are not only producing animals that grow well, but they also enable them to produce in-spec animals. And obviously a combination of sort of your kill out, which is a big driver of return, obviously your growth rate and hitting specification are the things that are going to drive the revenue. And really that's what we want you to use this data for, to help try and do that. So probably the last thing is, like we talked about earlier, that's sort of how you'd manage it on the farm. The next bit is how you actually start to think about building up your own supply chains. And really with that, there's a few areas that we can help you support. So we have a number of calf rearers, a number of dairy farmers, a number of growers that are now on breeder, producing great calves, producing high performance calves that are coming through. And so we now have the breeder market trading here. And so both on your app, but also on the web, you're able to go into the little trading button and head into live weight, and you can start to look for animals that are going to produce to what you want them to be. So within these, the nice thing about Breedr is you can start to see the date, you can start to see when they were last weighed, you can start to see the current estimated weight. If you click on it, you can see information like sire and withdrawal that are starting to come through, that work with it as well. And that enables you to do offers directly from that. And if I show you on the mobile app, 1 sec, I've just got my mirroring is disconnected again. Going well on. This actually enables you to look into the medical history and the medical records of those animals as well. So hopefully that'll connect in a second. No, it won't. There we go. You can see Strava looking at me. I've been doing the Run 1000 for FCN, raising money for charity, and every day it looks at me and I'm not really doing as much running as I'm capable of. I think I'm getting a bit old now. But within the trading, you can come into here and have a look at the live weight. So here's a couple of calves coming off a dairy farm that we know. You're able to come into these calves, you can have a look. This one hasn't logged any vaccination data next to it, but you are able to come through and see ones which are. Look at the different animals that are up for sale. You can look at what their current weights are. You can see all of the information that goes with them. So we've just really started to drive this, and we've got a number of calf rearers now who can help build out that supply chain. So if you're wanting to look for consistent source of calves in your area, we have a team of 4 people who can really help match that up and start to bring those in. The other thing that you'll notice on here is dead weight. So from a selling perspective, so there's a number of different things that we have going with dead weight, but if you're looking for, say, contracts for dead weight, or you're just wanting to produce really in-spec cattle then and get a bonus for that, then do get in touch with us about that as well. So this is all so we can help you plan. And I think there's now new things available to enable you to do that. And then similar, if you decide there's a few animals that you don't want and not interested in anymore, then you're able to come in here and you're able to list animals for sale. Within listing them for sale, you can select which holding you want them to come from. You can add animals directly from your own selection of animals that come in it. All of these ones are in the test unit, so they've all been put for sale. It lets you set the TB area, and from that do a listing. And then we will help promote that to our over 2,000 farmers and finishers that we have around the country, who at the moment, to be honest, there's a huge demand for stores. So if you are looking to offload a few with stores, And if it's about money, though, I suppose, you know, we can definitely help with getting those done. But I wouldn't say it's the only way. The other side that we're really trying to drive to support farmers is by using the data you put in, we've actually got the ability to help finance. So if you're able to prove you can grow animals fast, as they grow, they obviously increase in value, that releases money on them, and you can use that money and speak to Breedr about putting in financing arrangements about that, because that data proves to us that you're a good farmer. It also proves the value of them, and then that lets release money for you to go buy more animals or to feed them or do whatever you want. So there's a number of things that we've got now in the back pocket to try and support farmers to try and build out these virtually integrated chains and make sure that you're buying animals that have good growth rates, they've got good medical records, and then also obviously help those people who are selling to you to realize that they may not have had the best sires, or they could have done better in a different area. So next year when they come back again, they're actually producing better animals that work better on your farm. So that's, I'm just trying to see the chat at the same time. So apologies. Let's see, there's a question that's come up in the chat. Will there be a way to add 2 administrations of drugs to one animal in one transaction, for example, antibiotic, anti-inflammatory? Tom, we are working on that at the moment. So actually, we're just working with the development team yesterday, where you saw me doing log activity from the cabinet. When you get to that, you'll be able to, as soon as you log that one, you'll be able to say log another, and without having to go back through the selection process, you'll be able to do it. That has been a top request from a lot of farmers to make that simple. So we are speeding up that process significantly at the moment. So with that, I think that's the main core of what I wanted to go through tonight. I think from our perspective, there's a whole lot of reasons to help you get data into your animals. We're trying to make that more and more valuable for you by putting data in. So be that helping with finishing contracts, being helped that you having better visibility that's coming through. The other thing I'd say is with a number of the listings that we have in the buying side, you'll see a number of them now have breeder guarantee. So these are farms where we've physically been to these farms, they're red tractor assured, or we've been through and done our own assurance. We know that the weights, and we're actually giving a guarantee to you as the purchaser that those will be weights that can stand up. And we're putting our own balance sheet behind it to make sure that we are showing you the quality that we're delivering through the data that comes off those farms. So there's some really good farm animals that are in here. I think it'd be, if you have a bit of time, then worth sitting through and having a look at some of the things. So, and with those, you can start to see quite a good bit of information and high growth in terms of the animals that are doing. So, you know, here's one calf over 1 kilogram a day. And I think for listing, most of them are all over that side. So they really are high performing calves. And, you know, we know that because a lot of these rearers are measuring it every day. And that means they go on to perform well when they hit the next one. So Jack, good question on the buy distance. That's coming very, very shortly. We released it this week, and yeah, there's a big release again next week to make it even more user friendly. So keep watching this space. In terms of, at the moment, you've obviously got the postcode, which can go with it and can show you whereabouts they are. And so at the moment, so this one's near Milton Keynes with the MK postcode. That gives you a good idea of where they are. So that if you're on the hunt for cattle, then do get in touch. We also have, it's not just about the technology, it's as much about the people. So we have a team of people that can help you look for calves and match those to stores or calves that you may be after. So I did cover it at the start, but if there's any more questions, Michael, thank you. Yeah, look, so yeah, great. Yeah, great. We're very excited to get the log 2 medicines in as well. So it's not so much a question. It's been very popular request from farmers, so we're excited to start working on that. Just a few of the other things. So we obviously mentioned the competition at the start, so I'll be running through that shortly. But if there's any more questions from anyone, then happy to go through those. If not, more than happy for you to call me directly or drop me an email. It's ian@breedr.co if you want to chat to me. I've got Mark Harrison, who works with us, is also on the panel tonight, and I can see that Mark's just sent his number around. So if anyone's interested in either deadweight contracts or sales, or interested in helping source calves, then please do let us know. We can go from that. Neil, we've been speaking actually to a few livestock markets to see how we work together. With very early days at this stage. I'd be interested in having a chat to you actually about how you think we should do that, because obviously this is about helping track animals through the supply chain and getting that feedback and getting a premium for them on the back end. And I think the more people in the industry we can get working in that direction, the better. So be interested to have a chat after this, if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to get in touch. So, but yeah, I think not so many more questions coming through, but as I said, do feel free to get in touch with me directly, or Mark, who's shared around what he's done, his mobile number. Just for next week, for those of you interested in calf rearing, webinar next week is on focusing on early disease detection. We've actually got Emily Bull, who's done a PhD in antimicrobial resistance, and she's going to be joining us next week for that. So Mel and her will be on the call talking about how we can do early disease detection. And for the finishing one, we've got Rob Drysdale, one of our farmers, who's going to be joining us next month on the, I believe it's the 25th, but I could be wrong. I think it might be a few days after. He'll be joining us. So we'll be chatting with Rob about how he's set up one of his systems and to work through and work with other farmers to build more integrated and coordinated supply chains. So that's going to be exciting, and you won't just get my voice, so which would probably be good for everyone. So, but anyway, thank you all so much for joining. Really appreciate it. I better quickly do the random one. How many people do we have on at the moment? Got 17. One person has left. So just a second. I have a random generator number in the back. So there we go. 1, 2, 3. So Neil, you have won. So we'll get in touch, Neil, and yeah, we'll send out the winter weighing pack with the gloves and the case to you very shortly. So thank you for all of the questions, and yeah, look forward. If there's any more questions from anyone, please don't hesitate to get in touch, as we said. And yeah, thank you for being patient with me, given I'm not James doing the webinars, who has a skill for it. But thank you very much to everyone. Pleasure to meet you, and really looking forward to keeping in touch over the next few months. So it's all for now. Thank you very much.